I'm a professional valuer, manager, and a leader in the industry of real estate. I also have outside interests, which are I'm founder and a member of the board of the Canadian Serbian Business Association, and I'm one of the founders and president of the disciplinary committee of the Serbian Association of Valuers. I was once upon a time the head of valuation for JLL, managing director of 2 UniCredit-owned firms, and now I'm managing director of Atrium Property Services. In terms of what about Atrium Property Services, I'll leave this up to Roman, a little bit of introduction for him. Viewers, if you have any questions, please send me by the chat function, and just state who the question is for. So Corona is the flavor of the day. It's affecting our daily lives and challenges our future. It's not going to disappear tomorrow. Just in a small comparison, yesterday Canada had 3,800 cases, Germany had 8,300 cases, and Serbia had 4,800 cases. So even though we're being vaccinated, it's still a fairly prevalent problem. This is positively and negatively affects the commercial markets. We have shutdowns of shopping malls. We have failing of small businesses, restaurants. But on the other hand, there are some companies that are doing positive things. Pharmaceutical companies, companies that make masks. So there is still business going on. With me today is Ivan Gazdic, Infrastructure and Real Estate Committee President of the Foreign Investors Council, and he works for CMS. Mr. Roman Klott, Managing Director of Atrium Property Services. Anna Petrovic, Head of Expansion Sector in Lidl, Serbia. Ivana Rajkovic, Director, Transaction and Portfolio Management of Poseidon Group. Milica Mitrovic, Asset Manager in GTC. Nebojsa Nesovanovic, Senior Director, Head of Valuation of CBRE. I'd like to start to put Nebojsa in the hot seat. Nebojsa, please start with a short introduction of yourself and CBRE, and then tell us, give us a short assessment of the commercial real estate markets, and not just in Belgrade, but I think in the region. I think there's reason for everybody to know. Okay.
Hvala, Brale. Nastavit ću na srpskom ako je to svima ok. Ja sam Nebojša Nesovanović, rukovodilac odeljenja procena CBRE-a. Pokrivamo Beograd nam je regionalna kancelarija i pokrivamo jugoistočnu Evropu od 8 zemalja, znači bivše SFRJ republike, Bugarsku i Albaniju. Na tržištu sam 18 godina sada, tako da dosta dugo pratim razvoj tržišta. Što se tržišta tiče, trudit ću se da se ne ponavljam u odnosu na ono što je već rečeno. Znači, svi su bili prilično optimistični, svi prethodni govornici. Finansijska situacija je dosta dobra. Evropska centralna banka i Fed nastavljaju ekspanzivnu monetarnu politiku. Kamatne stope su na rekordno niskom nivou. Inflacija je na niskom nivou i za očekivati je da se to i nastavi. Cene nekretnina, vrednosti nekretnina, odnosno cene kojima se prometuju nekretnine su prilično stabilne, s tim što pojedine grupe nekretnina, pre svega logistika, imaju rast vrednosti u prethodnih 12 meseci. Njima je korona čak i pogodovala. Najveći gubitnici su naravno hoteli i ta ugostiteljska industrija, a mimo hotela naravno tu je maloprodaja, naročito tržni centri. Posle toga dolaze kancelarijski prostori koji trpe takođe i očekuje se da imaju štete u nekom narednom periodu. Pre svega kada pričamo o stabilnosti vrednosti nekretnina ili cena nekretnina, to treba staviti u relaciju sa vrednosti ostalih kapitalnih dobara. Ja bih rekao da iako su vrednosti nekretnina nominalno na sličnom nivou, tamo gde su bile i pre 12 meseci, ostala kapitalna dobra su značajno porasla. Kada pogledate berze, uporedite sve svetske berze, one su u odnosu na pik neposredno pre korone skočile barem 30%. U odnosu na period pre 2 godine one su skočile 50%. Sve te kompanije rade lošije ili u najboljem slučaju slično kao što su radile pre 12 ili 24 meseca, a vrede 30 do 50% više. Posmatrajući to, nekretnine koje posluju na sličan način kako su poslovale pre 12 meseci ili imaju nekakve kratkotrajne gubitke, koje i dalje imaju sličnu cenu, postaju neuporedivo povoljnija investicija nego što su to akcije na berzi. I iz tog razloga možemo očekivati veći fokus od strane investitora u oblast nekretnina i gledanje mnogo više nekretnina za investicije nego što smo to imali u prethodnih 12 meseci. To kada se nastavi očekivano ekspanzivna monetarna politika od svih značajnih učesnika na tržištu. Sada ne bih išao pretjerano detaljno u različite segmente nekretnina zato što ima dosta govornika, imamo dosta ograničeno vreme, ali rečeno je već da je logistika veliki pobednik i da prvi put ćemo gledati da su stop povraćaje, odnosno yildovi za logistiku ispod yildova za kancelarijske prostore i to je nešto što gledamo. Tržište stambenih nekretnina postaje vrlo atraktivno, kod nas je već dosta dugo, ali i na drugim zapadnim tržištima. U stanovima i na zapadu već počinju da gledaju, počinju da ih posmatraju kao kapitalne investicije, ne kao samo mesta za kupovinu, za život, naročito od kad su berze skočile i berze su na vrlo visokom nivou. Dosta ljudi koji imaju stotine hiljada ili niske milione razmatraju da kupuju stanove takođe na razvijenim tržištima gde postoji razvijeno finansijsko tržište. Retail je tema dosta dugo i on se transformiše sam po sebi, nevezano od COVID-a. COVID je samo ubrzao tu situaciju s tim što imamo vrlo jasnu sliku u šta će se retail transformisati u nekom narednom periodu, verovatno 3 do 5 godina, tako da se investitori već osjećaju prilično komotno sa retailom i očekujemo priličan povratak investitora u segment retaila, pre svega tržnih centara, pošto iz retail parkova nikad nisu ni odlazili. I najveće pitanje su kancelarijski prostori. Svi smo znali negde da će tržište kancelarija da se menja i da idemo ka digitalizaciji i ka nekom online radu, s tim što je to COVID neuporedivo ubrzao i stavio nas barem 3 ili 5 godina ranije u neku poziciju u kojoj smo trebali da budemo. I svi znamo da sada možemo da radimo online i da možemo da se sastajemo online, što pre godinu dana već nismo praktikovali. I pitanje je kako će se to odraziti na kancelarije. Prvo je koliko je učinkovit rad od kuće koji sada praktikujemo i koliko nam se sviđa ovaj rad od kuće. S tim što istraživanja koja smo sproveli u Poljskoj i Češkoj govore da negde 1/3 radnika preferira da radi iz kancelarije i produktivnije iz kancelarija kako ih danas poznajemo. 1/3 ljudi je indiferentna i smatra da su isto produktivni i kod kuće i u kancelarije i 1/3 smatra da je produktivnija od kuće. Ovo nam ostavlja samo prostor i daje nam smernice kako kancelarijsko tržište treba da se menja, kako treba da se diversifikuje i kako treba da zadovolji potrebe i ljudi kojima standardne kancelarije ne odgovaraju. Ta diversifikacija se pre svega očekuje u manje popularnim, da kažemo, kancelarijama, znači flagship lokacije, najkvalitetnije kancelarije očekujemo da će ostati kakve i jesu, da će tu sedeti najkvalitetnije firme i da će to biti kako jeste, dok će manje atraktivne i manje privlačna kancelarija, da kažemo, za zakup, morati da nalaze neka alternativna rešenja da bi zadovoljili taj gap, da tu rupu na tržištu, tu nezadovoljenu potrebu. Od mene za sada toliko, da bih ostavio vremena i za druge, Brale, na tebi je. You're mute. No.
Okay. Great, thank you, Nebojsa. So, Ivan, please give us just a short description, and I just want to answer the question from a legal point of view. What were the challenges during the previous 12 months for the real estate investor and bank financing and real estate projects?
Thank you, Bryan. Well, speaking of the challenges, we definitely had real estate M&A transactions and real estate project financing in the past 12 months, and there were several things that came up during the pandemic. For example, when M&A real estate transaction is conducted, the longer the period from the signing and the closing is, there is more risk whether you will end up in another state of emergency, or how tenants will behave, whether this will trigger so-called MAC clause. This is material adverse change clause, which means that the buyer is protected not to close the transaction in case something happens between the signing and the closing. So all that uncertainty during the pandemic was not helpful at all. When it comes to real estate project financing, we see that now almost all valuations now they have this COVID disclaimer, so we are not sure how this will affect in some future periods the true value of the real estate. So maybe we can have words on that in the last panel. I think it's about valuations. This is this is directly linked with the loan to value as one of the financial covenant from the project financing that was discussed from the previous panel. Again, lease agreements were also affected. Some tenants were very like eager to have rent reductions, to have new rent-free periods, and rent income is definitely the key point for servicing the debt. So this is not only an issue for investors, but also an issue for banks. And maybe the last thing that I would like to mention, yes, this standstill or moratorium, how was it called in Serbian language, was introduced, but the problem was that all real estate projects are huge, and they have a syndicate of many lenders. They have foreign lenders as well, so this standstill definitely was not applicable for as automatic solution for those projects.
So even just give a little brief introduction of yourself and your firm.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
That's
yes,
okay.
my name is, I thought, yeah, Ivan Gazdic, partner in CMS Law Firm, and I'm also president of the real estate and actually infrastructure and real estate committee of the Foreign Investors Council in Serbia.
Great. Thank you. The next question is for Ivana Rajkovic. You have a professional background in banking. Which effects is COVID-19 having on financing of retail assets? And are banks asking for more frequent valuations or LTV changes, anything like that?
Thanks, Bryan.
An introduction of yourself first.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. My name is Ivana Rajkovic. I'm the Director of Transaction and Portfolio Management of Poseidon Group, whom I joined, well, almost 4 years ago now, to lead the global operations across the SE region. And I'm actually coming from the banking sector. I was with Erste Bank for almost 12 years before that, specifically actually in the company that was financing big real estate projects. So one of my main tasks actually and main responsibilities within Poseidon as well is handling our key financial institutions and our investment partners. So I think I can give you a pretty good insight into our experience with the COVID and with the banks and what their reaction was to the whole situation. Especially seeing as we have developed and we have a lot of projects currently under management, we are constantly trying to keep in touch with the banks to see how their strategies are changing, what their requirements are, and to try to give them our input from the market of what is going on and how things are changing for them to have a better feel of what is going on as well. And I have to say that they have been very, very positively accommodating to clients, and they have reacted quite quickly when this whole thing started last year. As Ivan already mentioned, they have approved these so-called moratoriums or standstills for clients without them even having to ask for it. I understand that in a lot of cases it wasn't easy to get those through, but it was very helpful, especially for us across our portfolio, having those couple of months where there was uncertainty and we didn't know how the situation is going to develop, not to have to worry about paying loan installments and so on. This has, of course, affected the bank's thinking and the way they are making their plans. And I think it has put a little bit of brakes in terms of their appetites for new volumes, and it has tightened their requirements a bit when it comes to financing. I wouldn't say that there's been a very significant change, but there is again a little bit of an increase in the requirements when it comes to debt service coverage ratios, when it comes to LTVs, when it comes to the frequency of delivering valuations. They have sharpened these requirements a little bit, but this is definitely not as bad as it was when the real estate crisis in 2008 hit, because this is not basically a financial crisis. The banks are well capitalized, they invest conservatively. So NPLs in the amount that appeared on the market back then are definitely not going to be appearing now. I would just say that maybe new players on the market are going to have it a little bit more difficult if they don't have a track record with a bank, because this is one of the things that the bank is always asking for: your previous experience, your track record, either with them or with someone else, but that you have projects that have already been completed. And I think that it was mentioned in the previous panel as well, where does your first million come from? You know, it's always, if it's the chicken or the egg first. You need to have something to show for in order to be able to get financing for your next project. But what if it's your first? Then you have a little bit of a difficulty. But in general, I think the banks have definitely been a partner to investors and developers in this whole situation.
It sounds like this is good evidence that the banks have learned something from this 2008 crisis, how to handle shock a little bit better, being able to react faster. So this is a good sign of a maturing economy.
Yeah,
good experience for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, they are still banks, you know, being annoying and being slow, but I have to say it was really a good standpoint that they took, and they were very helpful in the crisis.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Roman, my question to you is the COVID crisis changed the way the office market is working? Nebojsa touched on that a little bit. Maybe you could just expand.
Yes, I'll just say a few words about myself and the company. I'm the founder of Atrium, and I founded the company in 2005. And since then, we are focusing a lot on managing properties. That's maybe our specialty. So we are involved in the daily operation of office buildings, of a lot of residential lately, and also a bit of logistics space. And we have a lot of insight into what is really happening on, let's say, on the ground. And actually, what we have seen is that surprisingly, things are more normal than I would have expected. A year ago, almost exactly a year ago, we were panicking and we didn't know what will happen next week. But let's say this year has taught us a lesson that actually we are very adaptive, and we can also operate in difficult situations. Basically, what I can see in the office buildings is they are pretty empty. Many companies have their stuff still sitting at home. So the real physical occupancy is maybe 20-30%. And this is hitting especially retailers again, as those ones who have a little restaurant nearby, who are living from the consumption of the office users. They have the biggest problems. Towards the office tenant itself, I have to say that not much has changed. Of course, landlords gave a bit of rent freeze and a bit of benefits here and there, and basically helped to make it a bit easier to those tenants. But what did not happen is that rents massively dropped. The tenants moved out. That we have huge vacancy. We are still somewhere between, I would say, above 90%, maybe even closer to the 95%. And that's, let's say, caused by lease agreements which are just not breakable so easily. So, and the other cause is that office occupiers are also a bit driving the direction of look and see what will happen. Let's say everybody expected it's going to be a short-term crisis. Now it takes a bit longer, and things will look a bit different next year and the year after, I believe.
Great. Thank you, Roman. Milica, since we're on the office subject, and you have experience in retail and office, has leasing suffered during the pandemic? Can you compare office and retail, since you guys are owners mainly of office developments, but you also have at a mall?
Okay, so let me just introduce myself. I am the asset manager of the GTC as from 10 months ago. I'm in the GTC Serbia office portfolio, the asset manager, but I have the experience in the retail in my previous company, Poseidon. I was the associate director of the retail asset management portfolio, asset management team in Serbia. Basically, I do believe that all of you know, so just to highlight about the GTC, GTC is operating and owns and operates more than 120,000 square meter of the office GLA in Serbia, and 35,000 square meter of the retail space in Ada Mall. So basically, back to the question, I must say that I agree practically with Roman. We witnessed in the beginning, there was a slight delay in the decision-making process when it comes to the retail, when it comes to the tenants. Basically, everybody was afraid how the situation is going to look like, how long the pandemic is going to last, and they were actually not able to oblige themselves for long-term lease agreements. But this is something that happened in the beginning when everybody was feeling insecure. But given that this takes for a year now, the companies are practically done with waiting. They want to come back they want to oblige themselves on the leasing of the premises, and they want to start their business and move forward. So basically, we are now witnessing that the decisions are being brought faster, and the vacancy rate hasn't dropped so much. It's just few percent that we noticed so far, and the rent collection was excellent. So yeah, when it comes to the physical presence in the buildings, it is a bit low now, but starting as of 2021, it's getting better, regardless that numbers of the infected people are also getting higher. So when it comes to retail, I must say that the retail is definitely suffering more, especially the shopping malls. But it's very important to highlight that there is a huge difference at this moment between the shopping malls and retail parks, because it turned out that the main advantage of the retail parks is their accessibility and actually the open space in front of the shops and the direct access. Which is in the shopping malls different, and in the measures taken by the government, it's adjusted. It is sorted as the most dangerous part of the business. But regardless, we do feel that when the measures were lifted for a couple of period of times in this last year, we saw that practically the people are very interested in coming back to the shops, and that they lack this part of their routine. They lack having some entertainment with their entertainment time with their family and friends. So we hope this will come back to where it was.
Great. Thank you. So, Anna, a little bit about yourself. Kako je korona uticala na gradnju i nekretnine u Lidlu?
Bravo, Bryan. Pa evo, ja ću ukratko da kažem nešto o sebi, pošto sam sigurna da o Lidlu svi znate veoma dobro. Ja sam Ana Petrović, zadužena sam za razvoj mreže Lidl prodavnica, konkretno u gradu Beogradu. Dobila sam neka šaljiva pitanja apropo Lidla i učešća na ovoj konferenciji, zašto da nije profula u Lidl možda konferenciju, ali ne, Lidl se jako ozbiljno bavi nekretninama i to vidite do sada brojem otvorenih prodavnica u Srbiji. Ne pričamo ovdje samo o Beogradu, pričamo o teritoriji cijele Srbije. I s obzirom da smo operativni negdje od kraja 2018. godine, mi do sada imamo 47 otvorenih filijala, još nekih 10-ak trenutno u izgradnji, još mnogo njih u pripremi. Što znači da ja ovdje predstavljam jedan ozbiljan tim za nekretnine koji je onako prilično uspješan na cijeloj teritoriji. I evo, vrlo sam srećna da mogu da podijelim sa vama naša iskustva. Protekla godina nije bila baš, ajde da kažemo, uobičajena, niko nije naviknut na sve to što nam se dešavalo. Lidl kao ogroman sistem i kao kompanija koja trenutno u Srbiji broji nešto više od 2200 zaposlenih, znate i sami koliko je teško brzo odreagovati na bilo kakve promjene u okruženju, a mi smo praktično tokom protekle godine imali promjene maltene i na dnevnoj bazi u samom početku. Tako da udar veliki na organizaciju. Ja mislim da je cijeli supply chain bio vrlo pogođen i ne može se tu samo reći da je jedan konkretan sektor bio, ajde da kažem, najviše izložen tim poteškoćama. Naš zadatak je bio jako odgovoran. Mi smo tu da ponudimo za naše kupce proizvode koji su im svakodnevno potrebni, da obezvijedimo da se nama može lako pristupiti, da se može sigurno obaviti kupovina i sigurna sam da su došli do izražaja ta lakoća i jednostavnost kupovine kod nas. Tako da u suštini šta bih mogla da kažem kako je uticala korona na nekretnine u Lidlu? Pa zahvaljujući našim poslovnim partnerima u oblasti gradnje, mi smo uspjeli da sva otvaranja koja smo i planirali prije pandemije, da uspješno privedemo kraju, to jest da dovedemo do otvaranja. Mislim da je gradnja bila prva linija fronta. Može se slobodno staviti negdje u red sa prodajom koja je bila vrlo izložena. Tu nemamo home office-a ni u gradnji ni u prodaji. Tu moramo biti prisutni, jel tako, na licu mjesta. Kolege iz nabavke, iz logistike, transport je jako bio izazovan u tom periodu. Svi smo onako pružili maksimum od sebe i uspješno odgovorili na sve poteškoće koje smo imali. Što se tiče samih nekretnina i kupovine, Lidl svoju aktivnost nije apsolutno usporio, naprotiv. Mi smo dali pun gas jer smo vidjeli da je neophodno da kupac ima mogućnost da što brže i lakše kupuje, tako da smo mi onako otvaranja poželjeli malo i da ubrzamo. Kupovina ide svojim tokom. Nismo primijetili pad aktivnosti u oblasti kupovine nekretnina, nismo primijetili ni pad cijena, složila bi se tu sa prethodnim panelistima, posebno sa Ervinom i njegovim entuzijazmom. Ja negdje dijelim taj entuzijazam u oblasti nekretnina što se tiče cijelog našeg regiona. Mislim da ima veliki potencijal i da će tu tek da dođe. Tek ćemo da se iznenadimo kako se, ajde da kažem, nekretnine u ovom regionu, kako će da prođu. Ja se 10 godina bavim nekretninama u okviru kompanije Lidl i mogu da vam kažem da sam fascinirana konkretno mojim poslom u Beogradu, jer to nijedna lokacija nije ista, svaka je za sebe različita i prosto je stalno interesovanje na velikom nivou, jako je zanimljivo, ali i uspješno mogu da kažem. Nije najlakše, slažem se, ali je jako onako izazovno, tako da uživam.
Super, baš mi je drago.
Bravo za srpski jezik.
Hvala. Sljedeće pitanje za Ivana. Poseidon Group has been investing in retail parks, obviously in CE for over a decade now. There seems to be a common sentiment that retail parks have been dealing with the pandemic quite well. Can you confirm or explain the sentiment?
Yes, hi. I can definitely confirm this. I think Milica already addressed the topic a little bit. Let me just add that next to retail parks, we have also invested into shopping centers and standalone food stores. And in this whole situation in the pandemic, when it started last year, we saw that retail parks were definitely the ones that had it the easiest, I would say, to adapt to the new situation. And one of the key advantages that I would point out is something that Milica already said. This is the layout of a retail park. You have all the shops out in the open. So the customer can enter into each shop separately directly from the parking lot. And this is a big advantage compared to shopping malls where you have a lot of common areas, where the stores are all next to each other. There's a big hallway where people meet, people are together. Here you have them separate. You can limit the number of people in each store. You have a separate entrance. This has proven to be a big asset of retail parks in the pandemic. Also, the management of a retail park, the expenses of and the so-called hladni pogon, I can't remember the right term in English, is way lower in a retail park. There are expenses that you can just not cancel regardless of whatever is happening. You have to pay these. And this has been easier for retail parks to manage. And I have to admit that our tenants have been very supportive in this as well, because they've never, ever complained about paying the service charges. This was always paid, it was always settled. So it made the whole situation way, way easier. So yeah, basically, I'd say that, and I think Nebojsa also mentioned this in his introduction, that the retail parks in the retail segment have definitely come out as winners from this whole situation.
Great. Thank you for that. So we have retail parks that are probably one of the big winners, or at least not big losers in this pandemic. Hotels are probably overall the biggest losers at this point. Logistics, with logistics, I think logistics has done quite well, because you obviously, one thing like the Lidls and the Delhaises are still operating quite well. They still need a lot of storage to store their goods. So I think, and then you get a lot of online shopping now. I've probably done more online shopping in the last year than I've done in my entire life. So this is obviously a big advantage. Next question is for Ivan. What advice would you give real estate investors and lenders what they should pay attention to when conducting a transaction during the pandemic?
Yes. Well, obviously lenders should definitely pay attention, and not only lenders, investors as well, to the type of commercial real estate that is the winner, as you said. So logistics and retail parks. We see that the banks will not so eager to continue with financing the hotel industry or the office space, but we'll see whether this will change. When conducting the transaction in those extraordinary circumstances, all parties are willing to have some kind of flexibility, and to the buyer wish definitely to exit the transaction, not to close, if there is some extraordinary event happening. But on the other hand, the seller is willing to close the transaction no matter what is happening. So depending on whether you are working for a buy side or for the sell side, you can, yes, tailor your advice. What I feel is that we are moving towards green energy, green buildings, green leases. Sustainability is also the word that you can hear all the time now. So all those projects which involve features of commercial real estate buildings which are in harmony with the nature will be attractive not only to tenants but to lenders to provide the financing for those projects.
Great, thank you. Roman, how do you see the office market developing and changing in the next few years? Do you see any major changes? Do you think people will expand, reduce their office space, those types of things?
Well, we heard in an earlier panel that Nebojsa said this, 1/3 of the employees can imagine to stay at home, not to come back to the office. I'm not afraid of that because let's say the workplace of those 1/3 of people will be transformed into some other areas. So actually, what companies will have to do, they have to adapt their office. It has to become, let's say, more healthy. Yeah, it has to be, let's say, more. It has to be prepared for better communication. So I think this classical office where you have your desk and you're coming in the morning, leaving in the evening, will change, but it will become much more flexible, much more adaptable. And let's say the effect on the office market, I don't think it will be so big. Things will change in the way that in let's say maybe not in every city, but in larger cities, companies will rent different places. They will have different offices. They will not unify everything at one place anymore. They will offer their employees maybe to work from a flex office center close to their home, because to work from home, many employees don't like to do or cannot do because they live together with grandparents, with family, and they don't have conditions for work. So let's say it will change the way how the office market is look like, but it will not, the office market or the offices will not become obsolete at all. I rather believe it will be redistributed, new ideas will come, adaptation will be made, and at the end, the office will continue to be what it is, the office where you work. And basically, what we also have noticed now, especially in this situation, is that service is very important. And let's say it's now obvious that hygiene is a topic. So basically, instead of having less to clean, we have much more to clean. So basically, we have more people doing the job which was done before. We have to disinfect areas. We have to maybe implement some projects of contactless entry. So I think for our, let's say, for the professional service companies, it's actually an opportunity to do new things and different things, and that's why I'm not afraid of the future.
Yeah, this is good. You're mentioning like you're cleaning a lot more. You're cleaning maybe with some different products also. What other things can you bring to investors, owners of buildings? You can even expand to residential, obviously. Also, I know it's a commercial panel, but there's something where you can add to residential. What value do you bring to these owners?
Well, on let's say besides the hygienic stuff, which was really very much on focus in the past year, many things can be done better than it was done before. So we have IT services now. We can actually let's say improve our service delivery with applications. Let's say tenant apps. We can, and what we did in some of our projects, we introduced basically electronic billing possibilities over an application. So owners can pay their community bills basically directly from the mobile phone. They don't have to go to the bank branch or stand in a queue at the post, which is really annoying. And I think step by step this will come into Serbia too. It's a bit slow here because let's say Serbia is lagging a bit behind in IT development, but I see it coming right now. So basically, IT side is very important. Integrate more, let's say, software. Have very nice customer-friendly applications running. Let's say, makes the service easier. That's very, very important, I think. And then on the real service execution side, we also see a big change, especially in the upmarket projects or upscale projects. We have much more inquiries for high quality service, and we introduced a concierge service, for instance, for apartment owners, which they can use at their discretion. And that's, I think, completely new, and it's changing a bit how property is taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Just 1 second.
Raleigh, if you want, I can step in about this.
You can what? Yeah.
I can just expand this, what Roman just mentioned.
Please.
We are all on the same side, same page, meaning we are quite opposite about future. I would just like to emphasize that speed of change is becoming more important. So not developing office building, signing 10 or 15-year lease and sitting on it, just issuing a once a month invoice. So it's more about customers, and each employee inside is a customer, about their happiness. So we would need to work as asset managers way more to satisfy new generations working in an office building. Similar like with retail space. So it's not just bringing a good blue chip company name, signing long term, and you are ending up there. You just need to listen what your customer wants. And it's not 20th century type of listening, meaning taking surveys and making focus groups and this kind of stuff. It's like Google type of research. Everyone is telling you what they want on their smartphone and what they are listening, what they are searching for. So you exactly can know all your tenants in the building, what they are looking for, and what's satisfying them, what's not satisfying them. And it's way more about being proactive and listening what your clients want, each individual ones, not just CEOs, and going forward that. And I would expect that in following 5 or 10 years, we are going to see the huge difference between a landlord who's doing proactive and who's doing smart asset management, and who's just sitting there expecting they need to send just one invoice a month or just invoice about rent a month, not changing anything. And all changes in a building, meaning you don't need to upgrade heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or to change a carpet. You need to do way more, and real estate is becoming, as almost any other industry in digital era, way more dynamic. You need to adjust on a daily basis and just to listen what your clients want.
It's a lot about community. It's going in this direction. It's you basically have to create a positive community where basically you can let's say follow up the thoughts and the feedback from your customers. It's interesting. There many landlords will not be able to do that because they are not organized in this way, or they are not they don't have the background to manage such kind of progress and change. But it's gonna happen, yeah.
Definitely.
Nebojsa, what obviously CBRE is the largest real estate service provider in the world. What's the investor interest? What are you seeing? What asset classes are people coming to look at? Are you seeing more domestic or foreign interest now? Maybe it's a lot less foreign interest because of the ability to travel. But still, we've been doing a lot in the last few years. Serbian marketing?
That's an excellent question. And one part of the question is what investors in Western Europe or more developed markets are looking. So there are three types of assets they are looking at the moment. First one is logistic, which is straightforward and easy. Second one is alternative investments, meaning elderly homes and student domestics. So they are looking for income producing, profit generating assets where the people are living on for a few years or more than that. And the third, they are again waiting and they're expecting a new wave of NPLs. And we are talking about more developed markets where the properties are way more leveraged than in our Southeastern Europe markets. So those are developed markets and what investors are looking there. Talking about Serbia, basically we have traditionally very few active investors. 15 years ago, those was Austrian developers and Israeli developers. After that, South African capital flow in. And at the moment, we see one Russian fund and we see one Israeli investor developer, which are quite aggressive on the market, and they are buying almost all properties. So we are seeing two names behind almost every transaction. And other than that, we see just a local group of investors which are buying good opportunities, basically some soft NPLs or something like that. So traditionally, we are not talking about, let's say, desire or long-term strategies. We are talking about specific time, specific investor, specific interest. So these two funds, these two investors are very active at the moment, and we are not sure who's going to be active in 1 year or 2 years, but having a history and track record in mind, again, we are going to have someone else. If not South African, if not Russians and Israelis, then it's going to be a Korean capital, where entire UK and Western Europe are talking about, or some other capital coming into this segment, or someone withdrawing their money from stock exchange all over the world, which is, they believe, overpriced and coming to real estate. So today we have a very clear picture who's buying and what they are buying, which mean, and still we cannot say who's going to buy in a year or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to buy in a year, in 2 years.
And about Lidl, are you expanding to Bosnia? Do you want to say something about that?
Pa da, ajde kad si već bio dovoljno bezobrazan da me to pitaš. Šalim se naravno. Lidl Srbija je Lidl Srbija. Ali, kaži Bryan. Aha, za budućnost, ok. Kada pričamo o regionu, kao što je nekad davno, prije 10 i više godina, Lidl Njemačka razmatrao ovaj region i donio odluku da krene u ekspanziju u Srbiji. U tom momentu, 2011. godine, kad sam ja tu počela da radim, iskreno bilo je, kao što je neko na prethodnim panelima već pomenuo, bilo je praktično uspavanih gradova. Uopšte nije bilo aktivnosti u oblasti nekretnina i gradnje. Ja konkretno, koja sam bila zadužena od početka za Beograd, u Beogradu sam mogla da vidim par gradilišta, mogla sam na prste ruke da nabrojim ko gradi i šta gradi. Sada je ta situacija dosta drugačija. Hoću da kažem da je Lidl na vrijeme počeo da analizira cijeli region i da Lidl Njemačka naravno razmatra i tržište Bosne, ali da to nije priča koja je direktno vezana sa Lidl Srbijom, nego to je praktično odvojena priča koja ide za sebe. I ja sam inače rodom iz Bosne i posebno mi je drago što će i tamo da u bližoj budućnosti bude aktivnosti kao i ovdje. Nekretnine su vrlo zahtjevne, pošto mi kupujemo svoje placeve uglavnom i gradimo svoje objekte. Tu je neophodna višegodišnja priprema. Mi smo u Srbiji potrošili, ne znam, evo, ako smo otvorili 2018. onda zamislite kolika je priprema bila ispred toga, višegodišnja. Znači 7 godina smo se spremali za to da bismo imali ovako kontinuiran rast u oblasti food retaila što se tiče nekretnina, da bismo kontinuirano otvarali naše prodavnice i krenuli sa tim velikim brojem na jedan dan kako smo i krenuli. Tako da vjerujem da će kolege u Bosni da imaju jednako uspješnu priču kao mi i eto, možda nije moja ekspertiza da pričam o Lidlu u Bosni, ali vama sam sad malo otkrila da se o tome vrlo detaljno razmatra, analizira i da čućete uskoro sve. Sigurna sam. A vjerujem već da Nebojša ti vrlo dobro znaš.
Nisam znao da je tajna, izvinjavam se.
Nije tajna, mislim nije tajna, to je prosto sad već negdje i oglašeno. Praktično mi dok analiziramo nikad ne znamo, ne izlazimo u javnost zato što ne znamo kada konkretno kreće koja priča, ali sada je već izašla vijest u javnost, tako da eto, bit će prilike da čujemo u nekim budućim konferencijama šta se i tamo dešava, nadam se.
Anna, one question. How many shops do you have already in Serbia and how much can you still grow?
Pa mi do sada imamo otvorenih 47, to je otvorenih filijala, ali mnogo još planiramo, ajde da kažem da ih otvorimo. Konkretan broj ne bismo govorili jer se prosto on mijenja u zavisnosti od toga šta se dešava na tržištu. Hoću samo da kažem da je naš plan, naš cilj je vrlo jasan, vrlo jednostavan, a to je da vi svi kupujete u Lidlu. A onda možete da zamislite koliki će to broj filijala da bude jednog dana. Da svima bude lagano, da svima bude usput i da svi mogu relativno brzo da završe svoju kupovinu. Tako da...
We do our best to support you.
Of course. Čekam vas, imate vi zanimljive lokacije za nas. Vrlo ja dobro pratim šta vi radite.
Great, thank you. Milica, do you have any words on future GTC developments?
Well, this was actually announced, I think, a week or two ago, but I'll just mention it again. So GTC is planning to develop one more office building in, of course, Milutina Milankovića Street, where else? And the building is called GTC X, and planned delivery is Q4 2022. It's office building of 17,000 square meter GLA, 8 floors with plus the ground floor, and 330 parking spaces. So these are, to say, the most recent or the closest plans for GTC in Serbia.
Does the X stand for 10 or?
No, it stands for the shape.
Okay. So the development is in an X shape. Okay. X marks the spot. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
When it will be completed? What is the time?
The completion is planned for Q4 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Milica, do you want to share with us a transaction that took place or it's taking place right now for your asset, or it's...
I'm not sure what are we talking about.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Ivan, you work in the Foreign Investors Council. What are the latest FIC activities in the real estate and infrastructure industry? Are you involved in any regulatory activities at the moment?
Yes, we are very active in regulatory activities. We have excellent communication with the Ministry of Construction, Traffic and Infrastructure, as well as with the Ministry of Mining and Energy. We have just finalized input and comments to the new draft law on renewables, which was mentioned in some of the previous panel. I mean, this sector of renewable energy is very important for this year as part of the overall infrastructure. Majority of our comments were accepted, so we see that this platform is definitely a good tool for investors to influence and to shape the regulations which are affecting their everyday business, of course. And when it comes to construction industry, we are thinking about trying to, we see that this conversion of right of use on the land into ownership is still not completed. Even this was initiated since 2009. And now this is 2021, and we still have state-owned land, right of use on it. We still have even social ownership, which is a relic from the past. So we are thinking now to put a few new ideas and solutions to suggest the Ministry of Construction how to deal with it faster. This becomes highly important question for during this pandemic, given that a lot of very attractive locations are blocked because the conversion fee could amount several hundred thousands, even above 1 million euros. So hopefully we will get to some good solution and proposal to the ministry on that. And if you just allow me just a short note, speaking of risks, when conducting a M&A real estate transaction, especially during the pandemic, it's not directly linked to the pandemic, but we see that each year, almost every year, we have more and more W&I, this is a warranty and indemnity insurance policies taking place and being acquired for completion of the transaction, and title insurance as well. So those two products are not, it's not possible to buy that in Serbia, but there are each year more and more insurance companies who are interested in selling those products here. So this is an excellent tool to ease and to close the transaction, shifting the liabilities from the seller to the insurance companies. Especially important during the unpredictable risks and uncertainty that the pandemic caused.
Mm-hmm. Super. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We have maybe a few minutes more. I'd just like to, one last question maybe for Ivana. You sold a portfolio for retail parks in Serbia pretty recently. Which ones are they? What kind of effects was the pandemic on the transaction? And what do you think the overall effect of the investment market in CEE region?
Hi, yes, yes, we did sell 4 retail parks, our entire portfolio currently in Serbia, to an Austrian investor, Immofinanz. I think it's known to pretty much everyone now. And this was actually a first completely virtual transaction. So from the start to the finish, the principals never met in person. It was all done through video calls and conference calls. Actually, Ivan was our legal support on this one, and you're going to use the chance again to thank him here. And surprisingly, I think this was actually went very smooth, considering the fact that it was done in a completely different way to how transactions have been done so far. We started negotiations sometime, I think, in the second quarter last year, and by the end of the year, we signed it. So I think everyone knows that real estate is not a very liquid asset class, and it's not unusual for transactions of this size and this complexity to take a very long time. But I think we even beat the records of some pre-COVID time transactions when it comes to completion. Obviously, we did have some technical challenges in terms of meeting, because we couldn't meet, but this maybe even made the whole thing a little bit easier for some long-term players on the market, because there was kind of a separation of some previously seen investors with some limited experience. So the ones that know the market very well had kind of an open field to work and to get transactions done. We at Poseidon, where we have built one of the first retail parks in Serbia, I think, and I think the largest one in Belgrade that we sold the year before, and we have sold altogether then to very well-known international retail investors at, I have to say, a record market price. We find this to be a testament to our location, our design, our management, and our brand. So if I would have to say if COVID had an effect on our business, I would say it had a good effect on our business. We were really successful in the past period, and we definitely plan on staying in the market and expanding further in the market, not just in Serbia, but also in Croatia, where we have a lot more assets under management.
You sold assets to Imo Finance before?
No, this was our first transaction with Imo Finance. We sold a retail park in Belgrade previous to that to an Israeli investor.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I thought maybe if the two parties had known each other, it would be much easier, but these two parties hadn't met before, so I could see where there might be more difficulties, but I'm glad to hear that it went very smoothly.
Well, I think that Imo Finance is a player who's been in the market for quite a long time. They know the market well, and this was the factor that made things a lot easier, I would say.
Yeah. I don't see any questions in the chat area. Does anybody else want to weigh in? I think our time is pretty well up. I think we maybe have another minute or so. Anybody else have anything they want to finish with? No? Okay. Well, I'll give the floor back to Jagoda. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, participants, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the panel, and I hope it was rewarding. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you, our panelists. This was really crucial topic, if I may say, especially now in this COVID situation now here in Serbia and in the whole world as well. Thank you very much.